Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi man wala. Welcome everybody to our community update. Today is Monday, June 22nd, special day and beautiful day out as well. So today we have a special guest, and let's see if we can get a gallery view here of both of us. We have a special guest who's a young man from East Orange, New Jersey, and he's a student of knowledge, someone who's put in, done some arduous journeys, and continues his studies in knowledge, and he teaches as well, and he has a number of other things that he participates in between the youth in East Orange and all sorts of other activities with, we know Dr. Chak, you teach with the Sakina Institute as well. So at Mecca Center, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So he's very busy and he's out and about, which is very good because we say al-haraka baraka, right? Moving around is always going to bring barakah. So the more you do, the more you work, the more you expend effort and sweat, right? The more the barakah will come around and eventually you'll strike gold. So inshallah, without any further delay, let's hear from our brother Saleh Clemons. Bismillah.
Bismillah, jazakumullah khairan. MashaAllah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. حمدا يوافي نعمه ويكافي مزيدا وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله وصحبه وسلم تسليما. اللهم علمنا بما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما وزدنا إيمانا وزدنا تقوى يا رب العالمين يا أرحم الراحمين. Alhamdulillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to everybody. Many thanks to Dr. Shari'a Masri, alhamdulillah, for just creating this space and inviting me into this space, into the community, in order just to say some things that are on my mind, to address the community, first and foremost myself, to address myself, to address my brothers and sisters from amongst you all in the community at NBIC. Alhamdulillah, it's beautiful to see some of the updates from NBIC that are going on, that I believe that the Khamsa Salawat, the 5 prayers, are now starting to open in congregation, I believe, inshallah ta'ala. And I see some of the dhikr nights and things like that are going on outside. Alhamdulillah, we saw Dr. Shadi's beautiful background, mashallah, what's going on outside. Please ignore my not so beautiful background of the attic in my apartment, alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. You know, Dr. Shadi, what you mentioned about haraka baraka, you know, with a lot of movement brings a lot of blessing.
Yep.
I think that's
Yep.
It hits somewhere in the heart to start, inshallah. Because obviously, you know, we've all, in regards to a lot of the work I've been doing with the Mecca Center recently, you know, I give the weekly khutbah there every single week on Fridays. And Mecca Center, as pretty much everybody probably knows, is, you know, right in the heart of New York City, which is also right at the heart of not only the pandemic that has been going on in the United States, you know, for the past few months, but also it's really been actually at the heart. It moved from Minneapolis and kind of, you know, went into New York City, because New York City is usually the mover and shakers of a lot of things within our country. You know, you take the temperature of that city, you kind of get the temperature of how the United States is going to move, and thereby the rest of the world as well. Of a lot of the recent protests and the unrest, and all of the demonstrations and everything that we've been seeing in the past few weeks. And, you know, I kind of want to start here in saying that, and I'm saying these things really in reflecting to myself. And I need these reminders for myself. I need these reminders for my family. I need these reminders for my children. I need these reminders for my community, for your community, for all of our communities, that the believers are brothers, you know? And so really this is a reminder just for all of us. It's something we need to really, really be keen on nowadays. And it's the very fact that we can't take this time to be lazy. We can't take this time to be complacent. We can't take this time to be tired of many of the discussions that have now sparked across social media platforms, in our masajid, in our communities, discussions as it relates to race, discussions as it relates to education in our communities in regards to the realities of a lot of the Black contribution over the course of Islamic history, and bringing light to that, bringing light to, and I'm not going to sugarcoat this, the deeply rooted divisions that can exist, not always exist, that can exist though, between majority immigrant communities and the Black communities. This is something that is a very, very, very sensitive and very, very, very hot topic that has consistently been spoken about in the Black community and Black Muslim communities. I'm speaking specifically with Muslim communities, and has, in my own personal experience, you know, Dr. Shadi, these past few weeks, I haven't been angry at, I haven't been angry at all after the murder, the senseless murder of George Floyd, or at the protests and the demonstrations that I've seen. I haven't been angry about that at all. I really haven't. Sad, yes, I've been sad. I've been reflective. I've been hurting. I've been feeling that same pain that, you know, I felt, you know, throughout my life, and that's carried within the DNA of my the generational trauma from the transatlantic slave trade that my, you know, people have gone through. But I don't want to talk about that necessarily. What gave me the most kind of shock and anger in the past few weeks were times in which, you know, I didn't feel supported in terms of any activities or any conversations or what have you that came from individuals that I felt close to within the immigrant community. That in the Muslim immigrant community specifically, those are the things that really hurt me the most. And I think they hurt me the most because our primary identity, you and I and everybody else, is Islam. Muslims first. Everything else does come second. You see what I am first in terms of my skin color, my eye color, what have you, like that, right? You see those things first. Hey, buddy, you want to sit down? Bismillah. Okay, you see those things first, right? But primarily, first and foremost, our identity needs not to come from what's superficial first. Our identity needs to come from what is dakhil, what is inside of us. And what's inside of us is that nugget of iman that, inshallah ta'ala, that we're all carrying within our hearts. That nugget of iman that we're all carrying inside of our hearts. And when questions get asked about, and it's good to see these questions, but I think in Islam, we ask questions thinking the answers are to be complicated and nuanced and what have you. But I'm a firm believer in that Islam, you know, within Islam, that answers are very simple, but it's the application of these things because of our own nafs, because of our own dirty souls, you could say, why they get so difficult. You know, you see a lot of questions now, what I'm talking about, you see a lot of questions, especially maybe that I've seen across immigrant community platforms. And I'm addressing this issue specifically because, you know, obviously I know that it's primarily immigrant community at MBIC. Although you guys do a really, really good job of, you know, being partners with other communities that are around in that Central Jersey area. And that's really a model and a standard that others should follow, and something that's very, very beautiful. I do want to point that out first and foremost. But you see a lot of questions that are kind of pandered about, you know, how to be an ally, you know, for the Black Muslim, how to be an ally, how to be a partner within this struggle against, you know, implicit bias, systematic racism, this racism that is more hidden as opposed to the apparent racism that the United States had come to know for, you know, 350 years or what have you. And those questions are good. Those questions are good. But when I hear those questions, and I'm speaking for myself, and obviously it reflects a lot of imams, other students, and others that are close to me that I identify closely with, is when I encounter these kind of questions, and I think this is something extremely important for everybody to reflect on for their own selves and their own friends and what have you, is for me the answer to that question is how to be a good ally is absolutely nothing. You don't need to do anything. And the reason why I mention that is because historically within the country, right, the African American or the Black person has been deprived of the agency in order to take their independent decision and the independent power to make the decisions for themselves, to take that agency for themselves. Obviously, it was something that was stripped away during the times of slavery. It was something that was stripped away at the time that slaves were emancipated, because as we remember, the emancipation of slaves also came within the 13th Amendment. And the 13th Amendment does provide for legalized slavery in regards to imprisonment. And that's something that persisted in the South thereafter. And so it wasn't really an emancipation of slavery. It was kind of more of a shift in terms of how slavery was viewed within the country. And then obviously we know the history of segregation, Jim Crow laws, although voting rights came in 1964 or what have you, that, we were still encountered with redlining. We were still encountered with, redlining districts. We were still hit with white flight from the cities and the closing down of factories and jobs within the cities, which leaves the ghettos, which leaves economically deprived, not morally deprived, leaves economically deprived areas for now the Black American to try to thrive within. And then in communities get infiltrated with drugs in the 80s from quote unquote the CIA. Hey baby, come here. No? Okay. Anyways, and communities get infiltrated with drugs in the 80s. You have the hip hop culture that tries to fight up against that and fight up against and create a vehicle of expression for the African American that is uniquely theirs. And that's something that kind of gets co-opted and becomes a world culture in a sense. And so for all of these years, right, me, my parents, my family, others, our voices get co-opted. Our voices get stolen from us essentially. And it kind of regenerates that cycle of this hidden kind of oppression, this hidden kind of disenfranchisement that has come the norm in our experience, right? And so, which is why I mentioned in terms of those questions about how to be a good ally, how to, come here, Gwen, come here. Sorry, she's crying for her mom. My mom's out. Anyways, how to be a good ally, how to be good friends, how to be good partners, how to be good brothers and sisters in faith at this time and going forward, and how we can really have that harakah, really have that movement to facilitate the barakah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to facilitate those blessings to descend from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's going back to the very simple thing of just being flat out, just being Muslim. And what do I mean by that? We find in the story of Sayyidina Bilal radiallahu anhu, there's a story between Sayyidina Bilal and Sayyidina Abu Dhar radiallahu anhuma, in which Abu Dhar and Bilal were in a sort of an argument with one another. And Sayyidina Abu Dhar radiallahu anhu, he very, very plainly called Sayyidina Bilal radiallahu anhu the son of a black mother, which is equivalent, in a very outward apparent form of racism that, we all know the words, we all come to know them. And what's really unique about this story isn't the end of the hadith, isn't the end of the story where Abu Dhar returned, isn't the very fact that Abu Dhar returned back to Sayyidina Bilal. And he put his face on the ground and asked Sayyidina Bilal radiallahu anhu to step on his face and was apologizing to him. And then Sayyidina Bilal picked up his face and then kissed his cheek and said that this is a face that, essentially he says that this is a face that says La ilaha illallah. This is not a face to be disgraced, this is a face to be honored. Right? It's not that's the most interesting thing that I think we find the answer in as it relates to how we move together, as communities, as immigrant-based communities and indigenous Black or convert, what have you, based communities, right? What if the Muhammad communities that descended from the Nation of Islam movement, or what have you? But the answer lies into what made Abu Dhar want to seek forgiveness in the first place. What made Abu Dhar want to seek Sayyidina Bilal radiallahu anh and have such a sense of remorse and have such a sense of astaghfirullah, I need to change. And he changed instantly and immediately. It was because he heard that the Prophet Muhammad was angry with him. And that when Sayyidina Bilal radiallahu anh, when he told the Prophet Muhammad the Prophet Muhammad became extremely angry. He became, I don't want to use the word irate, but he became very angry, a righteous kind of anger that he would display when the rights of others or the rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala were transgressed. And when Sayyidina Abu Dhar radiallahu anh heard that, that's what moved him. And that's what needs to move us. The pleasure of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Our actions get displayed to him on every Mondays and Thursdays, yani. And the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the pleasure of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, they said the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's interconnected. And so when we ask how to be good allies, it's going back to loving the messenger, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, loving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, jalla jalaluhu wa ta'ala fil ula. It's going back to knowing our religion, following our religion, loving our religion, first and foremost. Not being Egyptian first, not being Pakistani first, not being Somali first, not being black first, not being, and this is not some all lies rhetoric, some Uncle Tom all lies rhetoric. This is real. Because Islam is real, Allah is real, Jannah is real, Nar is real, all of that is real. And ultimately, every superficial aspect of our beings is something that will disintegrate within the earth. And will be raised up in a new reality when it's all said and done. We'll be raised up in a new reality when it's all said and done. And there will be no concerns on that day when we're all standing naked on that plane. There will be no concerns about anybody amongst the other. There will be no concerns. The only concern is where is Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's the only concern on that day. Where is Sayyidina Muhammad? Because if you know where Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is, and if he accepts you into his company, then khalas, inshallah ta'ala, you're good. You're good, inshallah ta'ala. But if that's not what our main, but that main concern can only manifest itself in the next world if it's a reality that we live in this world. If our main concern is where is Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in regards to how I'm living my life, in regards to how I'm interacting with my brothers and sisters, the answer in our communities is not, well, let's just have a mass campaign of, mashallah, marrying all of our daughters and sons or whatever together, and let's just marry. No, that's not. I mean, that's not the solution. Sure, it'd be nice, but it's not the solution. But the solution first is just being Muslim first, and having our hearts oriented to Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam first, and having our hearts oriented to Allah azza wa jal ultimately, right? For the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this really example, it really emphasizes itself. Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anh, there's a narration from Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anh in which he mentioned that Sayyidina, our master, Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, that he freed Sayyidina Bilal. He was with his meaning Bilal, because Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, he's the one who freed Sayyidina Bilal radiallahu anh from slavery. But he referred to both of them. This isn't early Islam. This isn't early Mecca. He referred to both of them as Sayyidina. He referred to both of them as his master. And this is, we all know the personality of Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anh. We know of his nobility. We know of his stature. We know of his righteous aggressiveness. We know of his maqam to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and ultimately to Allah azza wa jal. We know that. And he's the one that's referring to both of them as master. He's referring to both of them as master. And what does this mean? That from the get-go in Islam, an attachment to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, an attachment to Allah azza wa jal, that's what moves and facilitates the blessings. That's what moves the heart to eliminate the implicit bias. That's what moves the limbs to be able to act and interact with our brothers and sisters in a way that is beautiful, that is a way that is reflective of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah ta'ala, wants from us. However it may manifest itself, there's no golden formula or anything such as that within this deen. The only golden thing that we can hold on to is a golden change between us and Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, having that spiritual sent to him through our teachers, through our teachers, such as yourself, Sheikh Amin, who's doing a lot of different efforts, Imam Fahim Lee down in Camden, who's doing a lot of efforts, and all of these other individuals that we can enumerate all of the centers and everything such as that. The point is that an attachment to our religion is first and foremost, and we really have to take, astaghfirullah, we really have to take a pause and really be introspective, not just examine, but really be introspective at what's going on around us. Shaitan and his armies are playing chess. We need to stop playing checkers. You realize the real things that are going on, that are moving and shaking around us. Why the masajid are closed at this time. Why they have been closed at this time. why it's been difficult. And what's that? Now that masajid are starting to open it up, where, how, and we have to ask this question for ourselves. It's a question I'm asking myself right now. Is, are we really missing the masajid, or was that a lot of lip service that we were given the past couple of months about the masajid being closed? Because just as we would rush to the hospitals if we started getting a cough or sneeze for COVID-19, what does it say about the spiritual diseases and sicknesses that, yes, maybe COVID-19, that's going to kill us off in this world, but these spiritual diseases that we're infected with, that are more intrusive, that are more deadly, that are more real, that's our forever. If we don't take a chance to go to our spiritual hospitals, where are our spiritual hospitals? Those are the masajid. This is where the complete light, if we go to the masajid for Fajr and Isha, then we're granted with that complete light on Yawm al-Qiyamah. Right? We're granted with the complete light to Yawm al-Qiyamah. Where is our real attachment to the masajid? And alhamdulillah, I know that a lot of folks, especially in your community and others, are really having that ishtaq, that attachment, that missing attachment to the masajid. But it's something where, now that things are starting to open, we really have to be introspective where we're positioned, where our hearts are positioned in regards to that. And how, and when it comes to these, okay, you know, as, you know, maybe the second wave of the virus that we're currently, you know, possibly facing right now, et cetera, such as that, and we're bracing for that impact and such like that. We've been going through wave after wave after wave after wave of exposing ourselves to things that facilitate our arrogance, that facilitate our envy, that facilitate our jealousy, that facilitate our looking at haram things and listening to haram things. So we're exposing ourselves constantly. It's not a second, third wave. We're on the second to the infinite degree of waves of these things that we're exposing, that we're voluntarily exposing ourselves to on a daily basis. So where are we? And how are we moving ourselves? Especially now, you know, when you combine those things that have been happening within the past few months, and now all of this unrest that's going on right now, right? The reason why I bring those two things up together is now, obviously, now that the initial emotion has started to wear off, and now we're starting to maybe get into more planning stages in our communities and more of the education, as opposed to the awareness seminars that are going on, you know, in terms of just the plight of oppression in the Black community that, you know, kind of permeated through across social media in the immediate first 2 weeks or so. And then, you know, now there's a lot of educational initiatives that are, you know, teaching about, you know, a lot of West African scholars, Sheikh Ahmed Bamba, Sheikh Uthman Danfo, you know, et cetera, such as that, or about many of the Black Sahaba that exist. There's a lot of wonderful courses and programs that are going on that, you know, we all need to learn about. Absolutely. But awareness is good, and education that's better, but we need to act. And that action doesn't just come from, well, you know, I'm gonna, you know, wear this fist shirt and show my solidarity with the Muslim community. I don't need your solidarity. I need you to get your heart right. I need me to get my heart right. I need all of us to get our hearts right. Because when we get our hearts right, then the rest of the limbs will be right, as comes in the hadith from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But if the heart becomes corrupted, then the rest of the limbs will become corrupted. And this primary organ that moves all these things in our limbs, our actions, etc., such as that primary organ is the heart. And so if we want to talk about being allies, we want to talk about justice, we want to talk about these things, it starts first with ourselves. Our families, our communities, having those tough conversations, having those introspective conversations, having those real efforts to learn our obligatory knowledge, and also the obligations, taking precedence of removing blameworthy characteristics before we try to don all of these, you know, praiseworthy things. The first comes is removing a lot of the blameworthy characteristics, a lot of the blameworthy things that we can infect ourselves with. And then we need to go into knowing, okay, the praiseworthy things, how to act and things like that. And that's what Sayyidina Abu Bakr did first. He first went to remove that blameworthy characteristic of the pride and arrogance that still existed. And he was a Sahabi, yani. He saw Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but there still existed that, right? And so he removed that first, and that paved the way for them to seek that forgiveness and to have that beautiful, beautiful moment. I mean, you could imagine that beautiful moment with Sayyidina Bilal radiallahu anhu. It's not enough that we try to say, okay, here's a dirty cup. Let me fill it up with some water. Let me fill it up with this awareness. Let me fill it up with this education and then take a drink from it. And then I'll be good. No, because then you're just drinking dirty water. You have to clean out that cup first. Got to clean out that cup. Then when you put that pure water in of the religious knowledge, of the tazkiyah, of the purification, of the dhikr, of all of these things, then that drink will become sweet. And that'll be that halawat al-iman, that will be that sweetness of faith. And that will be that true pleasure of Islam as your religion, Allah as your Lord, and the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam as your messenger. And that becoming a reality for us. And we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes that a reality for us. And pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala facilitates in our communities efforts that you all are doing every single day. I see the program schedule that you all do. SubhanAllah, it's amazing, really, what you all are doing. And we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us that harakah to facilitate that barakah min indi, to facilitate that barakah coming from himself. Subhanahu wa ta'ala fil ula. And so that way it doesn't take another 400 years in the United States to bring about real change, but rather we become the movers and shakers to facilitate the barakah of change that reflects the change of that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam been through, where he changed an entire region within 23 years.
Wow.
It wasn't 400 years just to reach a point of, well, you know, we're in the same position as before, it just takes on a different form, but everything completely changed within 23 years. And so, yeah, I mean, that's the kind of invigoration that we need, that's rooted within the hubb of Islam. It's rooted within the love for this religion, love for one another. And ultimately, you know, that's something that'll reflect itself in the next life, because it's all about the next life. Shaitan is doing everything he can to keep us distracted. Really, a lot of these educational initiatives, it's not on their own fault or anything such as that. But if we focus too much on the superficial aspects of the education and the awareness, it can become a distraction over the real thing. And that real thing is Shaitan is an open enemy on our path. And whatever he can do to distract us away from the true tariq, the true way to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that true inner path that we're taking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whatever you can do, it doesn't matter. Shaitan doesn't care how we're getting distracted away from Allah. The point is that we get distracted. It can be through any means. It could be through any means. It can be through the means of us thinking that, okay, now we need to, say Black Lives Matter, and we think that sounds good, but we don't realize that Black Lives Matter as an organization has a lot of elements in their mission statement that promotes a lot of lifestyles that directly contradict our lifestyle within Islam. Shaitan doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to him how we get distracted. The point is that we get distracted, and we can't lose that focus. And if we keep our focus on being wary of those traps that are being set by the devil, inshallah ta'ala, we'll be able to navigate this minefield and reach our destination. And our destination, we're all on that destination. Our destination is our Lord subhanahu wa ta'ala, to gaze at his face, subhanahu wa ta'ala. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless the NBIC community, to bless the community within Central Jersey, to bless Dr. Shadi for all of his efforts, for all of the awareness, for all the education, for all the opportunities for introspection that I know that he is providing, for all the opportunities to love the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that I know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is making him a means for. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us for our sins, to bless us in this life and to bless us in the next, to give us the best within this life and to give us the best within the next. ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا وأخطأنا ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. Ameen. And just one more thing, just something to kind of just illustrate the idea of distraction and where our focus should be. and how things just kind of move from one way to another. You know, I don't have the ayah memorized in the Arabic, but I think we all know the story with Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam when he was a young man, and he's sitting by himself, a time for introspection, and he's gazing at the night sky, or he's gazing at the sky, and he sees the sun, and he wonders if the sun is his Lord, but the sun leaves, and he says, "This is not my Lord." He gazes at the moon, he gazes at the stars, he gazes at all of these celestial objects, wondering if this is his Lord, trying to find something to attach himself to find a righteous way to go. But he realizes that all of these things, they just go. They all pass. The only thing that doesn't pass is the thing that is what remains, and that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we need to keep our focus there, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to reflect this within each and every single one of us, and ourselves, and our families, and our communities, that focus in that direction directly to He who doesn't go for the day or go for the nights or disappear at some times or reappear at other times, but is always present, transcendent, beautiful, and with us wherever we are. And pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants us that ability to follow within that path. Barakallahu feekum. Afwan minni for the time, inshallah ta'ala. Barakallahu feekum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Salam rahmatullah. Jazakallah khairan. And you made the most important point, and I haven't heard this point from somebody else, from anybody else, was what is it that motivated Abu Dharr to have to seek forgiveness from Bilal for having said the word that he said? And that was, he heard that it angered the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that's exactly where that's our what's going to move us left and right, and that's only going to move us to the degree that we love the Prophet, peace be upon him. And so the morals of Islam, one of the values of them, or the beauty of and the strength of it, is that whatever we need to do is never going to change. So when we command right and forbid wrong in 2020, it's going to be the same commanding right and forbidding wrong that was occurring in 1920, 1820, and 2120. Whereas in contrast, what you said about some of the other movements is that the civil rights movement, which was not even 100 years ago, was preaching a very different angle of civil rights than the movement is today. It was a church-based, family-based movement. They've flipped all that, right? So the nature of these secular movements are constantly changing. Whereas what Islam has to offer is something that can continue to be the same set of morals, same deen that we can relate to from the past, right? And that can be related to us into the future. And that all linches back to the love of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And it's such a ni'mah that we are able to have this concept.
Oh man, you used that trigger word. You said lynch. I'm just playing with you.
Now I'm gonna get canceled, right?
Yes. Oh, cancel Dr. Shai. He's done. He's done.
Subhanallah. Alhamdulillah. So I mean, that's the most important thing that we have, is that we have a set of morals and ideals that never die out, and that's the beauty of the Deen of Islam, and that's why it's succeeded in the past, and that's why it's going to survive the current situation, globally, and going to advance in the future, inshallah.
Sure.
Let's see if we have any comments or questions. Well, I think you did answer this one very early on. Hamza Hussein, who says that the best first step in the process of rectifying ourselves in order to become proper allies. And so that, I think that's the main thing that you just said, which is turn back to the heart. And if you want to add anything else, it's
I mean, Bismillah, it's exactly what you said. It's turning back to the heart. It's focusing on removing those blameworthy characteristics and going to those things and finding where those blameworthy characteristics are in relation to your relationship to the Prophet ﷺ, and what he preached and what he teach and how he was and who he was with and everything such as that. Yeah. And so focusing on those blameworthy things first, so that way it cleans out the vessel within you to be able to then receive the goodness, to be able to receive the barakah, to be able to receive the forgiveness, and be able to offer that to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And make it that much better, inshallah, instead of drinking that dirty water.
Yeah. And what you said earlier on was very important too, is that maybe the best thing is to do nothing and to let the people whose agency has been stripped away
Yeah.
from them.
I mean, just in that aspect of, because obviously, yes, there is a physical thing, and we do live in this society. It's not that we're not just, everybody doesn't go into their own individual khalwa, just into their homes or what have you, yani. But in regards to that, just being a moral, beautiful support for your brothers and sisters, letting them take the lead, letting them take the charge, letting them have the agency in how things are run and how things are decided, and just being there for them and supporting them and giving them that chance, inshallah ta'ala. And we'll see, that's a whole nother discussion in regards to the Black community, because there are some more voices that are coming out in regards to, the Black Lives Matter program, in terms of the actual organization. Obviously the concepts, we all believe in the concept. In reality, no life matters unless that life believes in God.
Many people may not understand that Black Lives Matter is an organization.
Oh, sorry, my what do you call it? The connection. That's enough. Is it okay? There's a connection there, Beck.
Yeah, I hear your voice. Yeah, your picture stole, but froze, but I still hear your voice.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, it's okay. We could go with voice only. No problem.
Is there a connection there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Connection. False. Uh-oh. Let me see.
We can hear you. Just picture.
Oh, okay. You can hear me. Okay.
Yeah,
just wanted to make sure. Okay, yeah. Just the picture froze. Okay. All right. Yeah, because your picture froze too. So I just wanted to make sure. Alhamdulillah. So now I lost my train of thought and all that. And when I lose my train of thought, it's all off the tracks and it's a whole train wreck. But in any regard, right, that's a discussion that's going on in the Black community right now, and especially for Black Muslims specifically, really creating our own movement. There's some beautiful efforts. If anybody can like and follow. I think there's a beautiful effort that Sheikh Amin Muhammad of Atlantic City is a part of. A number of other imams locally are a part of as well. I'm not sure if Imam Qari Bashir in Trenton is a part of it yet, but there's what's called Ramadan. I forget what the acronym stands for, but they're doing a lot of different programming that are specific with African American scholars within our community, sisters and brothers. And actually, the sisters have a nightly Quran reflection that's going on right now, and women such as Ustad Aisha Prime and others are in Ustad Nuruddin Knight as well are participating in this. And so there's a lot of things that are going on, inshallah ta'ala, that could use support, that could use that standing with from all of our communities, inshallah ta'ala. And so we do have that opportunity to reclaim a narrative for the struggle for Black folk within the country, and at least make it something that goes back to what you were talking about, Dr. Shadi, in regards to the civil rights movement and previous even slave rebellious movements, being family-based, being religiously based, being centered within, whether it's the church or the mosque with NOI or the or other movements or have you, then being focused within the self and within the family, within the community, as opposed to what we're seeing now, where it's a completely individualistic anti-family. And that's when I say anti-family, I say that because those are the specific words that are actually used within the mission statement of Black Lives Matter. That they don't believe in traditional families, that they don't believe in other things that we're not going to get into. Inshallah, I think we all know what I'm speaking about. But anyways, so need to reclaim that narrative, at least for us, as relates to us being in this country, and us not just being on the periphery, but us taking the lead in reclaiming that narrative, inshallah ta'ala, of how we should go about this struggle for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal. For the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal, against this real oppression that all of us that we're faced with, inshallah ta'ala.
And how can somebody
I'm not sure if I can hear you though.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, no, I can't hear you at all. I can see your mic thing moving, but I can't hear you at all.
All right, well, let me chat with my question here. How can someone...
I can see what you type, but I cannot hear you at all. Alhamdulillah. Let me leave and come back very, very quickly. Do they have a website?
Yeah,
it's on Facebook. So if you type in Facebook, Ummah, UMMAH, Ramadan, I think in Ummah Ramadan, type that into Facebook, inshallah ta'ala. I think it should come up for everybody, inshallah ta'ala. Or you could go through the Masjid Muhammad of Atlantic City page. They're featured a lot on the Ummah Ramadan page. And so if people are following the Masjid Muhammad of Atlantic City, Sheikh Amin Muhammad's community, inshallah ta'ala, then that'll facilitate, inshallah.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I want to share something for everyone else out there related to this, inshallah, which is the event that's going to happen online. Okay, the road to understanding and open discussion on, actually, hold on a second. Let me not share this one. This is the older one. Let me get you the right one. But it's an online event that is hosted by the Ladies Night program, part of MBIC's Ladies Night, which they do all the time, do at least once a month. And this Ladies Night will be a discussion on race in the community. And so I'd like to share that with everybody right now. All right. Give us a second here. All right, here we go. All right, seems it's okay. Here we go. We'll just share this one. This is the older one, but here it is. It is the Road to Understanding. The newer one has a title that says an open discussion on race in our communities. Just the airdrop wasn't working, but this is the old flyer. Okay, again, the Road to Understanding, open discussion on race in our communities. That is going to be on June 24th at 6:30 p.m. It's going to be, you register at mbic.org. Okay, again, June 24th at 6:30 p.m. You can register at mbic.org. So that was basically the event that I wanted to share. Wish I had the updated flyer, but tomorrow, inshallah, we'll do that. We got a couple more days to advertise about this. So this is basically Wednesday. Ladies' Night is always on Wednesday, so it's 6:30 p.m. on Wednesday. This is on Zoom. I believe it's going to be on Zoom, but you're going to register at mbic.org. All right, so jazakumullah khairan, everyone, and we will, inshallah, to be back tomorrow at the same time, and we'll be able to talk more about all the different programs coming up, such as the kids program, which is June 29th, which starts next Monday. The kids camp starting from 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock. Again, also go to mbic.org for that. All right, jazakumullah khairan, everyone. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta. Nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Wal asr. Innal insana lafi khusr. إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. والسلام عليكم.